John C. Scureman, 1852 to 1918, West Pittston hero. John Scureman was born at Port Blanchard, Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, on June 20th, 1852. John was the son of Joseph and Naomi Evans Scureman and was one of 11 children. His 5 sisters and 5 brothers all preceded him in death, and he was the last member of the Scureman family. In 1881, he married Lydia Stanton in Pittston, and they lived in the area for their entire life, residing at 215 Exeter Avenue in West Pittston. John was widely known among the people of Pittston and surrounding towns as a tea and coffee salesman, having been an employee of the Grand Union Tea Company for 35 years and having been very successful in his work. John was a kindly man who unselfishly was interested in the welfare of others and in the advancement of community interests. He was well known for his generous nature and for his devotion to the best things in life. On June 7, 1906, John had been driving a horse and wagon in Duria, a small town near Pittston, and he went into a house on Marcy Street to deliver some tea. While he was gone, the earth gave way under the horse and wagon into a mine cave, and all that could be seen from the surface was the tips of the horse's ears. It took men several hours to dig it out, and the horse had only a few scratches and quickly recovered. On March 24, 1907, the stables of Joseph Langford in West Pittston, at the corner of Luzerne Avenue and Linden Street, were destroyed by fire. The blaze was an exceptional one, the buildings being a framework and of considerable size and containing hay, grain, and other materials. Fire was very hot. Among the firemen who responded to the alarm and who worked on the fire was John Scureman, who was one of the pioneers of the West Pittston Hose Company. The building was totally destroyed, as were 5 wagons and a quantity of oats and hay, and 5 mules and 1 horse were burned to death. During the progress of the fire, the electric light wires along Luzerne Avenue were damaged and several of them lay on the sidewalk. While he was walking about the burning building, Carl A. Keller, aged 11 years, encountered one of the wires, and his cries attracted the attention of John Scureman, who was wearing gumboots, and he immediately went to the boy's assistance. Carl had grasped a live wire and was thrown to the ground unconscious and still grasping the wire. At great risk to his own life, John grabbed the Keller boy by the legs and drew him off the wires. Carl was almost dead when John pulled him away from the wire, through which 1100 volts of electricity were running. Fortunately, there was no current passing through the boy, and John Scureman suffered no injury from that source. Thomas Evans, an experienced in first aid to the injured around the coal mines, immediately took charge of Carl and did valuable service pending the arrival of 2 physicians. Carl was not seriously injured, although he was confined to his home for several days after the accident occurred. He recovered fully and went to reside at home in Rome, Pennsylvania, with his mother and his father, H.J. Keller. Nevertheless, as John was carrying the boy away from the point of danger, a live electric wire that was hanging from the trees in the vicinity dropped on John's shoulder and neck, with the result that he suffered serious electric shock. He was knocked down. One arm was helpless and he was badly burned. He was permanently affected by this terrible experience. He was taken to his house immediately after he suffered the shock and lay for several weeks in a serious condition. His wife Lydia, who had been ill for some time, almost died from the shock of seeing her husband in such a state. He was ill for a large portion of time afterwards. Frequently, he was obliged to take to his bed, and all who were acquainted with him could not fail to note the change that had come upon him. His physical condition was completely weakened. However, John felt it necessary to keep up his tea business and was able, with assistance, to keep his tea route going. He had a great deal of expenses, medical and otherwise, on account of his injuries. So Charles H. Hall, a manager of the Grand Union Tea Company, called John's heroic deeds to the attention of the Carnegie Hero Fund Commission, which honors and rewards heroic deeds. The Carnegie Commission awarded John Scureman a Bronze Medal of Honor and a cash award of $2,150 to liquidate his indebtedness. In speaking of the fund at the time of its establishment, Mr. Carnegie said, "I do not expect to stimulate or create heroism by this fund, knowing well that heroic action is impulsive. But I do believe that if the hero is injured in his bold attempt to serve or save his fellows, that he and those who depended on him should not suffer pecuniarily thereby." The award was among the first made by the Commission. In the early morning hours of August 16, 1909, a man by the name of Clarence Burlew, a West Pittston grocer, his wife, and 2-year-old son were sleeping when their home was invaded by some men. The Burlews were tied up and robbed. Clarence managed to undo his bonds, then he freed his wife and grabbed her, and then took his son from his crib. He got to the head of the stairs, but the men had set the house on fire. He ran to the window and yelled, "Help! Murder! Won't anybody help me?" 2 women responded, as did John Scureman, who lived a short distance away. All were clad thinly, but Clarence told them where to find a ladder. The 3 raised it, and Clarence descended with his child and returned to the roof to get his wife. John Scureman ran to the West Pittston hose house and turned in the alarm. The firemen responded promptly to put out the fire, which had originated in the cellar and had made headway. The police later found 4 hobos about to board a freight train to Buffalo at Falling Springs, where they were arrested, along with 2 others in Dallas, Pennsylvania. At 4:30 a.m. on February 17, 1918, John Scureman passed away at his home of pneumonia after being ill for a week. He had been in failing health throughout the winter and, in his weakened condition, was unable to withstand pneumonia when it took a hold of him. His condition had been very serious since the beginning of his illness. He was 66 years old. John Scureman is buried in Pittston Cemetery with his wife and other family members. John Scureman, 1852 to 1918. Gone but not forgotten. As always, please be kind in the comments, as there are friends and relatives and descendants. And don't forget to like and subscribe.